Can you beat Olimar's Shipwreck Tale with only red Pikmin? Well, that's, no, but not for the reason you might think. So the first thing we need to do is just grow some red Pikmin. We're going to be using them for the challenge. It's pretty much the only thing we can use for a little while, so it's important to do so. This is actually being, well, audio for this recording is done in post. I'm doing something a little different to what I usually do. Challenge runs like this are a little unusual for this channel, since I mostly do just Let's Plays. Hopefully this will be fun. Anyway, once we've got our 20 red Pikmin to start off with, make sure to bloom them all, using the nectar that is supplied just over there. Once this has been done, we can actually move over to the watery blowhog all the way over there. Easily defeat it. And just go after the flower that's nearby as well. And the ship part that's in the area as well. Up there. Behind the cannon beetle larva. It's easy enough to just distract the larva, while your red Pikmin just walk right past it. Easy enough, they're out of harm's way now. Off to our left is actually, well, I say the left, now it's behind us, is another part, but we need the Flalik. And the part that's over there is difficult to get with the reds. That's going to be one of the harder parts to get. So anyway, when we've got the 5 Pikmin back from base that was previously on the watery blowhog, stick them on the raw materials. Now both of these get back at roughly the same time. And what we can do with these, after the Flalik has arrived, is pull out 10 more reds that we just had in there thanks to the watery blowhog. And the additional pellets. From there we can crush the paper bag. And receive one of the guaranteed spicy sprays from that honey wisp. I do make use of 2 spicy sprays in this entire challenge, and I ignore those raw materials simply because of the armoured cannon larva. There's another part just up there, so just stick 5 reds on the climbing stick, and they'll eventually make their way up there. Some raw materials can be found in that hole, although not 10 of them, so I actually threw a few extras. And we can just take down these couple enemies that are over here. I actually thought there was 10 raw materials in that hole, so I didn't bother checking on those Pikmin I just left behind. However, I do retrieve them by the end of the day, so it's easy enough to remember them when they're on the map. And another thing I completely forgot about was the Bulborbs that are just up ahead. Until now. That's when I noticed them, and have to skip defeating them. Otherwise risk... no, I say skip defeating them. The big one's a bit of a pain, but doable with only 10. But I just grabbed the rest of the Pikmin that were at base. And attempt to defeat it using only the 20 that we currently have. Since 5 are idle and 5 of them are currently on raw material. Well, not raw materials, but that part there. Once the Bulbob's been defeated, we can just start building that little clay mound. We should have enough raw materials by the end of the day. especially since there's a pile of raw materials just up there. But with these 15, we can just stick them all on that gear. Growing reds is important for this challenge. Again, only Pikmin type we can use, so any small things that we can grab are welcome. And that wonder Pikmin's just idle at base. But I thought it was going after the raw materials for some reason. But there isn't much for us to do here other than just wait for this to be built. And that's where I noticed the reds that are back at the hole that I dug out. Collected them and defeated. But just might be blocking the path up to these raw materials. And stick 5 Pikmin on there. That piles. Oh, the clay mound has only just been completed now that we've got those extra raw materials back from that pile. And we can make our way up to the Titan blowhog that's in this area. And I will actually defeat it because I want the raw materials that's right next to it. And it's just easier to defeat it than that attempt to go around it. So apologies for any frame rate drops. It wasn't like that while I was actually playing, it's just something that happened in my editing software. But anyway, there's a Flawless up there as well. It's the main thing we needed to defeat the Titan blowhog for. Anyway, we gather our Pikmin and go after the horned cannon beetle. Not to be confused with the armoured cannon beetle, which looks almost identical except for the small horns at the front. But even with our small army, we can defeat it before the day ends. And there is a little trick coming up soon that skipped yellows. Normally you would need yellows for the Nova Blaster, but it is possible to get them without. Speedrunners actually use this, well, upcoming trick to skip a small section of the level. However, I believe they usually use yellows anyway, just to make the throwing easier. But just over here, that clipboard there requires yellows to pull it down. So what we have to do is get on top of these bricks and throw a few Pikmin as we fall. We got 3 up there, so we have to go around again. And we have just barely enough time. But we just managed to get a couple more Pikmin up there. Pulling that climbing rope down, ready for the next time we visit this area. But we still missed a couple of parts. There's one there, one just above that one in a Puffy Blowhog, one down there, and the Nova Blaster that we just got the path towards. Anyway, those 3 parts that we gathered gives us access to the next area, since you only need 2. And we got the charging horn as well. That's something I'll be making use of quite frequently, because you don't actually start out with it. Anyway, onto the Blossoming Arcadia. Preferably, you do go to this area to unlock our next tool that we can use to our advantage. But from here, we already have over 100 reds. So we don't really need to do any more growing. I will still collect a couple of things as we go, since, well, they block the onion. So just a couple Pikmin on there. Not sure why the Pikmin decide to scatter like that in a line. I didn't even use the line-up trumpet for that. And now we approach the, not bumbling snitchbug, it's the other one. Swooping snitchbug. Bumbling snitchbug hasn't returned since Pikmin 2, so since, well, the swooping snitchbug actually got the ability of the bumbling. Anyway, we can burn away these little hay bales, or dried grass. Not actually sure what they are. It never shows up in the Piclopedia because it's not really a creature. Anyway, just up here is another ship part. And we can light that torch up and wait for this climbing wall to be built. And just up here is Moss, the Oatchi replacement, doing almost the same things that Oatchi can. Speaking of doing the same things Oatchi can, since this is being played on a 100% save file of the regular game, Moss actually has the Infinite Rush ability. It's a very useful thing, just to have extra. Anyway, let's put Moss down there for a little bit. Send Olimar on his way, and gather the 2 bomb rocks that are over here, since you can actually collect them from the Scutterchuck's heads, if you're fast enough. Or just rush through them. You don't even need to have an upgraded rush for that. But from there, we can head over this way and grab another bolt. There's a lot of repeating parts in this. But Moss should be able to take care of herself. And we can move on down here and set up the base over here. Since they removed the water, Pikmin can very easily get through. They just replaced it with mud. Very shallow mud, so any Pikmin can actually still get through. From here, we can start growing... Well, building this clay mound. And make our way over to here just to get some more raw materials. We just have to defeat this waddlecloth. I honestly have no idea how I remember the names of these enemies. Just 5 in there, and a few, the rest of our army in there, to get an extra bomb rock. And with that flowerlet collected, we can pull out another 10 Pikmin. And over here, there is a part beyond there, but there's another one just here that we need to defeat a creeping chrysanthemum for. And the easiest way to defeat that is just with a single bomb rock. It also takes out one of the spectralids. Although that red spectralid is another guaranteed spicy spray. However, it's just a little difficult to get. So while we're waiting for Moss to return, we can grab that. And Moss is nearly here. And with the entire army back together, we can take out the burrowing snaggers. I got very lucky that some of my Pikmin actually got hold there. enough of them for it to start shaking off, rather than eating. And with that, the burrowing snagret is gone. And we got another part from it. The clay mound is complete now, so we are able to have a shortcut for this flower, allowing us to pull more Pikmin out of the onion sooner. And with the 3 remaining bomb rocks that we have, we can break down this wall that requires bomb rocks. And I actually made a mistake here. We don't have the elemental resistances on moss. And thankfully, despite this part being up on a high ledge, we can just bump it down. Buried parts on high ledges, though, they are more difficult to get down because you can't just bump them off the ledge. There is also a part on a high ledge that is not buried that is going to take a little more difficulty getting. But now that we've got that Flarlick back, and moss, and a few Pikmin have gotten the Omega Stabilizer back, we've unlocked the next area, the Serene Shores. However, we won't be going there for a little while, because, as you can guess, there's a lot of water there. What we can do here, smash those pots, and grab more raw material, move our base, burn those dry grass bundles, and that's the last we need to use the pine cone for. There is the yellow onion back there, but we will not be picking it up because this is a red-only run. There is also a blue onion in this area, however, we don't need to go anywhere near it. It's also surrounded by dry grass, but again, since we don't need it, we don't need to go over that. As for Baldy Longlegs here, make sure it doesn't stomp you. And just wait until it lowers the main body. That's when you can actually throw Pikmin onto it and defeat it in just 3 cycles. I probably could have gotten it in 2 cycles had I gotten a little bit luckier with the first one. Because it shook it off too quickly. But that part in the background there, that is the other one. On a high ledge. This time you cannot bump it down. For whatever reason they made this one unbumpable. So what you gotta do is just throw Pikmin from the side up there, and sometimes they'll go onto the part. There is an easier way of doing this if you're using 2 players. I'm wanting to minimize my use of 2 players as much as possible. Just to ensure the Pikmin actually are the ones to get things done. Otherwise, we could just do this with no Pikmin and just moss. I'm also wanting to go after every single Flarlick that we can. There is one exception to that, though. There is a Flarlick that I have not managed to get. Anyway, there's a creeping chrysanthemum in the way of this part, so we have to defeat it before any of our Pikmin get eaten. And that Ionium Jet is part number 7 for this area. And the radiation canopy just here is the final part for this area, and we got this entire area done in a single day. Or is there just 7 parts here? I think there's 8. Yeah, there'll be 8, because we got 3 in the first area. So, 8 parts for this one. Makes sense. 7, 8, 8, 7. That's the distribution of parts in this game. Anyway, we don't have enough time to gather the remaining raw materials, so we just end the day and... Yep, that's all 8. We're way ahead of schedule, and we finally got the Idler's Alert, which I don't really make use of. But the rush boots are important, and Moss increased in strength. Well, carrying capacity. Plenty of days left. But yeah, since we've unlocked the Serene Shores, we head back to the Sun-Speckled Terrace instead. Since we now have everything that we could possibly have. So we get all of our Pikmin out that we can. All 60. And we start building this bridge, even though we don't have enough raw materials. So we do need to gather a few more raw materials as we go. That behind those breakable pots is either the Sagittarius or Libra. Not sure which it is. It does say at the end of the day, but yeah. They're so similar, nobody can remember either of them. You just remember the names, not really the locations in this game. Way easier in Pikmin 1. Especially since the Libra has a glitch associated with it. Anyway, we've got a few Pikmin in there, and we can move our base. Those Pikmin are going to be on the move. But, yeah, we've got a few already going back to base. We have enough to go up the climbing rope that we got on the first day. Send Moss back to base. It's not really all that important, but still. And we can defeat the Puffy Blowhog and Arachnode that's over here. They really did something here, putting them together twice in one level. But easily knocking that out gets us the Nova Blaster. And with that, there is, I believe, just 2 more parts in this area. I believed at the time we only had the 1 left, so I actually forgot about the difficult one. But that Puffy Blowhog over there is something that we need to defeat. Wow, I really thought I'd cut this out, but I guess not, huh? But we can just move our base back. And let these last couple of bridge pieces get attached. And then we can very easily just defeat the Blowhog that's over here. Is that the 3rd or 4th one for this area? I think it's just the 3rd. Anyway, since I thought it was the last one, I just put every single Pikmin onto it. Not realising there was another one that we needed to go after. But yep, there's the yellow onion in this area. Down by the landing site that you visit first in the game. We do make use of that landing site and defeat all of the sheer ropes over here. somehow that male sheargrub doesn't actually defeat us. But this one is buried on top of the ledge, so we have to get creative. Just wobble back and forth, bouncing very close to the ledge, getting us just enough height for a Pikmin to occasionally go over the top and start digging up the part. And since they're already up there, they can just pick it up. So far we've not really run into too many difficulties, just a couple of parts that are on high ledges that we can't knock down. Ones that are made specifically for yellow Pikmin. But blue Pikmin, they are a lot more difficult to clear. Anyway, I'm just going around looking for more raw material. This is another hole with a bomb rock inside. That'll come in handy later. And there is that pile of raw material over there that we can't reach because we would need either moss on the high ledge, which she can't get up there because we can only get up there through the climbing rope, or the yellows, which we skipped. But we get another bomb rock here too, so plenty of locations where we could use those. On to day 4, where we finally go over to the Serene Shores. The dreaded water area. Red Pikmin aren't even recommended for this area, so you have to manually pull all of them out. Thankfully, they added a button that pulls 10 out at a time. So it's much easier to do so than in previous games, even if it still feels slower. Anyway, we can defeat these miniature aristocrabs. And immediately go after the grub chucker in the water that holds another vault. Combat in water is not the best for Red Pikmin. They were designed for land combat only. And sometimes the grub chucker likes to be a little annoying and not get knocked down. No idea why. I guess you have to bump into the legs rather than the claws. Although, you also can't do it while it's getting up, and I just hit the legs and it didn't go down until the Pikmin actually reached the top and did enough damage. Just an annoying enemy overall. And there's 2 of them in this area, and we need to defeat both of them. And it wouldn't be a Pikmin video, or a Pikmin challenge run, without some part nudging. In this game, we can actually nudge the parts with Moss's charge. Very, very slowly through the water. And what's worse is, at the end of the day, if you haven't picked up a part at all, it gets reset back to its original position. So you have to do all of this in a single day, and you can see just how much time has actually passed, where we just get to the ramp, and where we get up to the top of the ramp. What's more annoying is that we need the part to be fully out of the water before we can actually pick it up. Moss never gains the ability to pick objects out of the water. Well, objects in the water and bring them out. That is an Ochi-only ability. Yeah. Part nudging takes a while. Sometimes things in the water like to be a little bit stingy, refusing to be picked up until just the right conditions are met. Even this much in the water is not right, because the Pikmin will drown and Moss just refuses to pick it up. But yeah, it's still in the water. And they just refuse to pick up the bolt from anywhere else. This is a weird thing that happens as well. The Pikmin is stuck in a bit of a loop there for a moment. We're going to bump the part just one more time. And the bolt is free. Anyway, now that the shore has gone out, or the tide has gone out, we got access to just a little more of the area, including this repair-type bolt. And this section over here. With the tide in, you actually can't get this part because it would just fall in the water through its carry path. But after we defeat the bug-eyed Chromad, which actually has 2 holes for some reason. There was at least one like this in Pikmin 3. Here we go. I think that's the same one because it's already taken some damage. But once this is defeated, we'll just pick up the automatic gear that it was holding, and it'll fall down that ledge that we just went down to. So we'll pick up these Red Pikmin and make a slight mistake after battling this crab. They really don't stand a chance in this game. Except one of those. I always have trouble with one of the Aristocrabs in the game. But this is where the mistake happens. Start building this bridge, even though I don't need to. You can actually save raw materials there if you're doing the challenge yourself. Just keep in mind the slight difficulties with part nudging, especially with one of them later on. Anyway, the Master Hop could be defeated through just a couple of slams with the Pikmin and stick 15 on that automatic gear. We can head up here next and knock down this Flowlick. There's actually 4 Flowlicks in this area, rather than each of the previous areas 2. Anyway, that Flowlick now has a safe path back to base, and we can pull open this potted plant. And you can also put moss on the end of that. 20 Pikmin is the maximum that can go onto it, in addition to moss. Or Ochi, depending on which part of the game you're in. That's another clipboard that requires yellows, but it's completely optional. You don't need to do it. And this is a very close thing that happens, but we throw all 20 of our Pikmin into the Pearly Clan clan. And defeat the Waddle Bus that blocks our path. Not too big of a deal. But we can also defeat the Whip-Tongue Bulborb that's here, as time runs low in the day. And those still haven't gotten back to base yet, and they're closer to that one, so I let them go. But when they do get back to base, well, I also stopped that one from going. As soon as the park gets back, also there's a Flowlick just there. The second Whip-Tongue Bulborb is also defeatable. I'd recommend defeating it since it's very close to a base. But we can pull all of our Pikmin back to base. I really should have used the homesick signal before doing that, because now we've got to travel off to grab the remaining Pikmin. And also the other Sagittarius/Libra. And with the not 10-second countdown, because this takes way more than 10 seconds, we find 4 of our 5 Pikmin on there, because there was 21 parts to that bridge. I start panicking, looking around for it. The Pikmin's actually in the darkened section of the map where we can't see anything that's going on. And there's the Pikmin. Our first death of the challenge. But we just barely got the ship part back to base. But with 5 parts collected from this area, we are able to return. And we've also got super buff. I do briefly make use of that, but it's not really necessary. Anyway, back to Serene Shores again, because we need 23 parts to open the final area. And, yeah. If you counted all of the parts in all of the previous areas, Sun-Speckled Terrace has 7 parts, Blossoming Arcadia and Serene Shores have 8. We need all of the parts from the 3 previous areas to unlock the final trial, which is way easier in comparison to this area, because of the amount of water. With one exception we'll come back to later. Anyway, it's just barely possible to knock this Flowlet down from its web. And from there, we need to do some object nudging again. I'll save you the time, and also the very difficult task of getting the camera in a good position. And simply just skip ahead to when that's actually past all of the water. But you can nudge it out of that body of water. After all, the Pikmin do need a safe path to get through. And I just want to be sure and nudge it one bit further before throwing our Pikmin onto it. That way we can actually collect it. I also go after this raw material just here. Collecting it all at once because the Pikmin have no way of getting back to it. And for some reason, one Pikmin just refuses to get on the last remaining spot on the flower lake, despite only 9 Pikmin actually trying to carry it right now. Thankfully, that does get there safely. There wasn't really any risk, since we eliminated it. The Whipton Bulbs. Also the blue onions in this area as well. Second blue onion. There's 2 yellow onions, 2 blue onions, and 1 red onion in this. However, you start out with the red onion, so you never pick up a second one. Anyway, this peckish aristocrat that's just here is no problem, because we have greatly increased our army size. And there is the 7th Flarlek. Another one that can be grabbed, but we need to deal with the sulphur bulblags at the top of the sandcastle. Throwing a bomb rock into its mouth. Gets it stunned, just like in the first Pikmin game. And a single charge is enough to knock it out. It's also blocking the onion, so we do need to just bring it back to base very quickly. Thankfully it was a very short thing. And the Pikmin just refused to pick that up, because it was so close to the wall. Anyway, throwing 5 Pikmin from above, we can actually get that Flarlek. And there's another part up here where, in the normal game, there's water. They removed the water for Olimar's Shipwreck Tale. And this isn't just a thing at low tide, we're currently at high tide still. So, it's just missing. There is, however, a couple of crabs and bubbles up here, so deal with the crabs and the bubbles and then you've got a safe path for another automatic gear to get back. Getting us up to 22. But if you know the last part, it's going to be a bit of a pain. Even at low tide. Flarlick's just gotten back, so we can now have 90 Pikmin out in the field. And the last remaining Flarlick is one that I have not been able to actually get back yet. I tried this a few times, and quite often you just go over the top. It is possible to bump it, likely if you time it well with its animation. Yeah, it is possible to bump, but you've only got half a day to get it a very large distance. Plus, these prickle puffs are in the way. So I attempt to deal with them and have the second loss of the challenge. There's also another Hermit Chromad up here. But from there, I just attempt to get this a few more times. If you can push it in just the right way, you might be able to get it, but I haven't figured out a path to get it yet. So, right now, 90 Pikmin is the most you can have in this challenge. But if you could get this one, you'd have 100 ready for the next area. But there is one last thing we need to do before ending the day. And that's get that part. The bowsprit. And unfortunately, Moss still does not have the ability to carry parts underwater. So she's stuck, the Red Pikmin are stuck. But this is not the end for the challenge. There is still one tool we have not used up to this point that I hinted at earlier. But for that, we need to leave Olimar's Shipwreck Tale. Well, you can do this from the start of Olimar's Shipwreck Tale, but I just didn't want Pebble Pitcher in front of the camera the entire time. Plus, it just means we actually got to use Red Pikmin for combat. But if we head into co-op mode, we can access the Pebble Pitcher, which I just use a single Joy-Con for. And from there, we're able to head into the Hectic Hollows, pull out only reds. Really, you don't need any Pikmin for this section, so since you're just pebble grinding, trying to get some ice blasts. And I actually found that this area is one of the better ones for getting ice blasts, for whatever reason. I know the hydro jellies are a thing in this area, but it was literally the first item we got. So, once you got 5 of them, which is actually more than enough, you only need 4 for this, we can end the day and head back into Olimar's Shipwreck Tale. Somehow, the Pebble Pitcher can time travel, because these events happened before the events of the main campaign. But if we head back into Serene Shores, with the Pebble Pitcher in hand, still with the 5 ice blasts available to us, I just don't want to accidentally throw any of them, we can head down and set up camp at the other base. instead of waiting for low tide, which would make this section way easier, I decide to do this during high tide. Not a good idea. I mean, it's another grub chucker. We've dealt with one already. This should be fine. But we're actually fighting it so long that it actually attempts to eat the Pikmin inside. It can actually eat Pikmin! Although we don't lose any Pikmin to it eating them. Instead we lose them to the water. There's just too many of them in the water, they're all too spread out. The enemy keeps attacking. And we lose 13 more Pikmin. But once the grub chucker is defeated, that's freed up this platform. So we can head back to base and gather our Pikmin up again. Do a bit of target practice until midday. But yeah, you can actually gather items through this section. In fact, I got an extra Ice Blast. But once it reaches midday, we hit low tide. And the part becomes obtainable once again. And as long as we can get all 60 Pikmin on there, we've got max speed. Well, not quite, but if we throw an Ice Blast in the water, and then Spicy Spray our Pikmin for the second time, they can ride along the top of the water and accidentally get frozen by an Ice Blast. Thankfully, there's enough of them still on it that they can make it to that platform. As long as we throw another Ice Blast on top of the water. The ice can melt while they're up there, that's perfectly fine. And we can throw another Ice Blast in the water for the last stretch. And that is part number 23. We've now unlocked Hero's Hideaway. And that's technically where the challenge ends. There's a little something that happens in Hero's Hideaway that you will see. But with that, we've also unlocked Swallow. The move that Olimar teaches Ochi. Yes, Hero's Hideaway is unlocked, and it's the reason why the challenge can't be completed. Because this is just bizarre. If you know Olimar's Shipwreck tale, you have to redo the tutorial for this section. Although this time, with a few more abilities. And a couple less onion colours. The onion is still fully red. We have not collected a single Pikmin. We've not thrown them into any candy pop buds. They don't exist in Olimar's Shipwreck tale. And yellows and blues just pop out of the red onion. Despite never seeing them before. the red onion just produced 28 yellows and 28 blues. Now you might be thinking that's a little bit weird. The tutorial normally has 100 Pikmin. Since we actually got Flarlix and Mr. Flarlick, we actually have a little bit of a problem. There's 90 Pikmin in the field. The only ones that are missing are yellows and blues. If you use less Flarlix, could you get less of these Pikmin? Well, yes, but there's a bit of a problem with that. You need as many Pikmin as you can on the bowsprit to get it past the water. But, yeah. Some Pikmin are actually just missing from the tutorial too. Like the yellows on the stairs. These ones are fine. But the ones up there? Nowhere to be seen. And the other 5 that are missing are blues. Normally there's 33 yellows, 33 blues, and 34 reds. Those yellows are still there, so they are easily collected. And unfortunately you can't bypass the blues there. From what I've seen, you actually need to collect them. Those blue Pikmin are missing though. The ones in the grass aren't though. So. I'm going to say we can use... well, we can't use the Pikmin in combat, or for picking up objects. And the onion still doesn't work, so we have to defeat the Porquillian and the enemy afterwards, before the onion starts working again. But what we can do is dismiss all of our Pikmin, grab just the reds. Ideally you have slightly different settings where you just have the colour that you're currently hovering over is the only one that actually remain. But as long as we don't use any of the blues that we just picked up in combat, this should be fine. But 34 reds is more than enough to cycle the Porquillian. Getting us the interstellar radio. And also somehow spawning in an extra enemy that wasn't there previously. We were just over there. The Guildmander, with 34 reds only. Break off the gold, as usual, for this enemy, and charge the one that's furthest away from it. So go over towards the one closer. While spots are visible, you can break them, lowering its HP by a third. Anyway, release more gold. It'll go after us, for once, because we're actually closer to it than any of the gold. And as soon as the gold breaks, we can actually get our Pikmin back. And it has one less gold piece that it can hang on to. There's still a gold piece covering both spots. So what we can do is, while it's got so few pieces on, just start attacking anybody and then go after the gold while it's distracted. Limit the amount that it can actually hang on to, otherwise it's going to have a lot of defense. But from my experience, this section of the day takes up half of the in-game today's timer. No matter what you do, so you can take as much time as you need for this section. Well, slightly before midday. But with that, we can now pick up the yellows and blues again and send them all back to base. Because we are not picking anything up until we only have reds in the party. If there is some way of skipping the tutorial, then the yellows and blues never actually get added, and we can continue the challenge. But for the sake of showing everything in its entirety, for now they're stuck, being used only for that. You could, in theory, avoid the blues by just charging moss on our own, because you can actually get off moss in this version of the tutorial. I don't know if you can in the original, when you first boot up the game. Anyway, we can defeat more of these tasked blowholes. The first one is already knocked out. And set up base at the location, well, the only location where the treasure parts can be picked up. The third base location just doesn't exist for some reason. And so, yeah, my headphones are running low, so I don't know if you can hear that. It's already gone off twice now. I really should have charged them before this, but we're here now. Send Moss to go and dig up a little hole to get up to the top of the counter, and go after this automatic gear that's over here. This miniature snoot whacker is, yes, that's its actual name, is a little annoying, since it does that, if you don't deal with it. Thankfully, it actually also bumps down the rest of the Pikmin that were previously up there, that are currently stuck up there now, attacking it. And the other Pikmin that were previously on the part are still on there, so they got past unscathed. Unscathed? I don't know. Anyway, we can go pick up the interstellar radio finally. And start digging up this hole, which I probably should have been doing a little sooner. Since Moss can actually help out over there, it's best she goes over instead of Olimar. But to be honest, we probably should have had fewer Pikmin with us for this section. And having 10 on there is enough for now, but 20 makes sure it gets back in time before the end of the day. Anyway, we can meet up with Moss again, who randomly decides to go back through the hole for some reason, leaving our Pikmin. Well, some of them are still up there and they just pop out again. It's a little annoying. But we can actually see them go in this time, so they'll pop out now. We've still left one of them behind, but we can press that button to lower the gate, just there, allowing the Pikmin to actually carry bridge pieces through. And there's a part in the water again, and this time, you can't drain that water. You can in the regular game. There's a button right by the sink that lowers the water. But if we deal with the Toady Boister that's in here, without our Pikmin drowning, we can at least clear that area. There is also that gate there, that electric gate. In Pikmin 3, you could not break down electric gates with bomb rocks. Pikmin 2 it wasn't an option either, because there's no bomb rocks on the surface, really, that I know of. And electric gates don't exist in caves in that game. But we can end the day early, since no Pikmin are in danger, with only our 2 parts collected. And with 8 days left, we still have plenty of time to travel back to the hero's hideaway and collect the remaining parts. And with all 90 of our red Pikmin back out, we can get started on building the clay mound, and then we can make our way past the repair type bolt in the water and get to work on this electric fence, which we don't need co-op mode for, because in this game you can actually just blow them up with a bomb rock. Our last bomb rock. There we go. Also, there's an ice blast over here. A little bit too late. You can't get a single one before Serene Shores. Or before you beat Serene Shores. And then the game just hands them to you afterwards. It's a little annoying. It does, however, mean blues get their time to shine in this mode. Except we completely skipped their time to shine by using Ice Blasts from Player 2. Still, we've got the 2 parts that are over there, and now that we're back over here and the clay mound is built, we can grab this extraordinary bolt over here and charge the Dweevil. Then press the button and go up to the man at legs. And I just got a couple messages, but they didn't come through in any audible form. But we actually froze it at a bad time, so we've got to wait a little bit until its, you know, weapon has been put away. And a few of our Pikmin got knocked off the table, so we have to just run around with the few that we have left. And it goes on for quite a while for some reason. And there we go. Defeated. Part number 29. If our Pikmin will stop attacking the clay pots that I did not tell them to attack. Anyway, we can grab our Pikmin from down below. And these Pikmin over here. I do apologise if you saw that or heard that. But we've got one more part to nudge. And this one, I would recommend nudging it this way, around the plug. Well, the drain. Because it tends to get stuck otherwise. But if you can manage to get it far enough, it does eventually slow down and become a bit of a pain to actually push. But don't give up. You can eventually get it onto the ramp and push it slightly, little bit at a time, and once it's on the ramp, all that friction gives up, leaving it with the normal object nudging speed. And once it's out of the water, you just gotta collect it, that's it. That's the last part. And thankfully, we do still have enough time left in the day to collect it. If a single part was in deep water, we would not be able to finish this challenge. You can collect every part without yellows or blues. You just can't beat the game without yellows or blues. No progress towards any part was made using yellows or blues. If we can skip the tutorial, we can skip yellows and blues altogether. But I don't think that's going to be possible. So, unfortunately, the answer to can you beat Olimar's Shipwreck Tale using only Red Pikmin is a no. But you can get very close. But with that last part that we've gotten to the ship is entirely rebuilt. And Olimar is able to lift off. So let's see the results. 232 Pikmin remaining, 15 Pikmin lost. Not too bad. Anyway, it is all possible. I have been Luke, going to charge my headphones. Well, it is possible and it's not possible at the same time. Signing out.